Following Dr. McMillan is Dr. Kevin Stillwagon, who will be addressing concerns related to long COVID symptoms and the dangers associated with the continuous production of the spike protein. According to him, some COVID shots are designed to extend the life of mRNA and the production of spike proteins in the body. To counteract the effects of the continuous production of the spike protein, Dr. Stillwagon will be suggesting two approaches that he'll be discussing later on.
People want to know about, long COVID symptoms and, dangers from the spike protein and how do you counteract that? Well, the main problem that's happening is the continuous production of what's called the spike protein. And unfortunately, this shot was designed that way. They used modification of the natural Wuhan virus recipe, if you will. It's just a nucleotide sequence. It's the mRNA, the message to make the protein. They modified it with what are called pseudouridines, N1 methyl pseudouridine. And when they did that, that makes the human body a little less immunogenic. In other words, it looks more human, and the body is less likely to immediately attack that mRNA. And so this way they can get a lot of spike protein that gets produced. And they also modified the ends of the mRNA so that it doesn't get gobbled up as easily by what's called RNase, which is a natural enzyme that's in your cytoplasm. So as I mentioned before, your body is a protein manufacturing plant. That's your cells are. That's what they do. They make proteins all day long. And they do that with messenger RNA. That's the message to make the protein. So when the cell decides it wants to make a protein, the messenger RNA is created in the nucleus of the cell. It leaves the nucleus. It comes out into the cytoplasm. It attaches to the ribosome, and the ribosome reads the sequence, and there's transfer RNA that bring in what's called amino acids. Those are the building blocks of your proteins. Those are chained together, and then when it hits the signal to stop, the protein it stops being made, and now the RNase comes in, and it dissolves that messenger RNA back into its original nucleotides, back into your cytoplasm so that they can be recycled and used again for a different protein down the road. But this shot isn't like that. This shot was designed by man to last a very long time and continue to make the spike protein, which is highly toxic. So how do you counteract that? You have to either dissolve the spike protein, or you have to stop the spike protein from attaching to other cells in your body once it does get created. You see, and it's got an affinity for what's called the ACE2 receptors in your body. So you can dissolve the spike protein by using natural products. These are not pharmaceuticals, they're nutraceuticals. And they're called nattokinase and bromelain and curcumin. And Dr. Peter McCullough has a very specific protocol on the amounts of those that you should be taking in combination. And as I mentioned, I'm retired now. I don't treat anyone. My main objective is to educate people on why things are happening the way they are and point them in directions where they can get some help. So Dr. Peter McCullough's protocol is a good place to start there to get those nutraceuticals to dissolve the spike protein. Now, you can also stop the spike protein from attaching to the receptors. Well, how do you do that? Well, we know that by taking ivermectin, that can help. There's also another interesting thing that's happening with the spike protein. The spike protein, as it's being made, there are smaller proteins that can be made. These are called peptides, and some of these proteins are very similar to venom proteins that you may have heard about, snake venoms, for example. And I've verified this myself. There are definitely sequences within the mRNA, smaller sequences that definitely do match venoms. And if these are being created by the cells and are released into the bloodstream and into the lymph, they can also attach to receptors, but they don't use the ACE2 receptor. They use nicotinamide receptors. And so Dr. Brian Ardis is another avenue of approach where he has discovered that by using nicotine, this can stop those smaller peptides from attaching to receptors along those cell walls. So those are two things you can do. I also like to point people in the direction of flccc.net. That's the frontline critical care COVID doctors that first started. And flccc.net has a website with some tabs on there for their specific protocols that they have found work with people that are injured directly by the shot itself, and also people that are experiencing long COVID symptoms. Now, I will tell you that, in my experience of, being a chiropractor for 7 years full time, there is no magic bullet. People are going to have to try different avenues of approach to see what works for them. And you need to try to find a doctor that's willing to help you along that journey. So, and you need to find doctors that are naturopaths, homeopaths, chiropractors, and also a new type of doctor that's developing now. They're called functional medical doctors or integrative medical doctors. And these are doctors that are definitely willing to help you along this journey to try to find out what's causing the problem, not just cover up the symptoms. Find out what's causing it and deal with that. So those are a few things you can do. Also, I encourage people to eat organic foods as much as you possibly can, because, and I know it's expensive, but I've seen a shift now in most grocery stores now where there are more and more organic foods available, and the prices are starting to drop, and that's just because of demand. People are demanding now healthier foods, which is a smart thing. And the reason is because most of our food and water now has been tainted with a product called glyphosate that's been sprayed on our crops. And the reason they use the glyphosate is because it kills the weeds and the undesirable stuff, and it allows their crop to grow. And they also use it to desiccate crops, to make them dry up all at the same time, to make them easier to harvest. So anyway, this glyphosate has gotten into our food supply, and the danger of that is glyphosate, number one, is a very powerful antibacterial. So if you consume enough of this stuff, it starts to deplete your natural flora in your intestines, your natural microbiome, and this is not healthy for you. And also, they have genetically modified foods and plants so that they will be glyphosate resistant. That way they can spray the crops with the glyphosate, and the crop stays alive, but the undesirable plant life around it will die. Well, these genetically modified plants, in order to do that, they've modified a very specific pathway inside of the plant called the shikimate pathway. It's a 7-step metabolic process. Well, the danger of that is that process is what the plant uses to create what are called essential amino acids. Now, they call them essential amino acids because our body cannot make them. Our body physically cannot make these essential amino acids. And as I mentioned, amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. So if you're not getting enough of these essential amino acids in your diet, you will become malnourished. Even though you look healthy, you will become malnourished. Well, what's the danger of that? Well, those essential amino acids are very necessary to keep that barrier, that epithelial barrier that I talked about, to keep it nice and tight and strong. As I mentioned, you have dendritic cells that can reach through gaps in the fence. So yes, there are gaps in the fence, but they are very, very tightly held together. If you have, lacking these essential amino acids in your diet and the killing of the natural flora that lines your gut lining because you're consuming too much glyphosate-tainted foods, then you get weakening of that tight junction, it's called. Those cells start to separate and they're loosely packed together, and that allows bigger proteins to sneak through that barrier that shouldn't be getting in there, like peanut proteins, for example. And that's why we're seeing a lot of food allergies now. And gluten is another one. See, we didn't have this years ago, but we certainly do now. And that's because of these genetically modified foods that we're consuming, and the leaky gut, it's called, that comes as a response. Another thing you need to do is exercise. You need to move. You need to get your body stretched through its maximum range of motion by doing just simple stretches. Why is that important? Because of your lymphatic system that is there to help, remove toxins from your body and to move essential, immune cells to all areas of your body. If you're not moving, you're lessening the likelihood of that happening. So you can do it through stretching, or even aerobic exercise will do it. And another reason why you want to get that heart rate up through aerobic exercise is so that you can get fresh, oxygenated blood and nutrient-filled blood to all cells of your body. All cells of your body. You've got to do this. You've got to get your heart rate up a few times a week, okay? When you stop moving, you start dying. This is just common sense. Another thing you need to do is keep your vitamin D level up. You can get vitamin D through the sunshine. You can also get it through vitamin D supplemented foods. Vitamin D has been added, or you can also supplement yourself with vitamin D tablets. And the reason I say that is because we now know that people that had a deficiency of vitamin D, a lot of those people got severe symptoms from COVID-19. And the people that had a high level of vitamin D did not have severe symptoms. So there's definite involvement with your levels of vitamin D. And this is something that you can have your doctor test for you, and you could even have it tested yourself if you're curious. There are websites like walkinlab.com, or also Ulta Lab Tests is another one, where you can actually order yourself these blood tests and find out what your vitamin D levels are. You can also help reduce the production of spike proteins by taking zinc with quercetin. Quercetin is what's called a zinc ionophore. It helps to get that zinc inside of your cytoplasm. And why is that important? It's important because zinc will slow down the production of the spike protein. And it does so by its action on what's called ApoBec enzymes. ApoBec enzymes is another area that many doctors aren't even aware of. But it's the ApoBec enzyme that is highly involved with the production of proteins in your body. And if those enzymes aren't working correctly, you can get an overproduction of proteins that are happening. The ApoBec enzymes, by the way, are what's responsible for the mutations of viruses in your cells. It's not the virus that's mutating itself. Viruses are not living things. They don't have any intelligence. They don't have the desire to attack you. They're just basically dead genetic material wrapped in a protein and lipid shell. That's all they are. And so when these things get inside of the cytoplasm of the cell, and the intelligence of your cell, the intelligence within your body, decides that it wants to mutate part of that virus genetic material into something else, it will do so. And it does it through ApoBec enzymes. Okay? So it's our bodies that are mutating the virus. It's not the virus that's mutating itself. That's another concept that's very, very poorly understood.